Most founders are stealing, and they're doing it badly. They're copying someone else's tone, their offer, someone else's LinkedIn post, and someone else's morning routine, and then they're wondering why they sound so generic. There's a book that explains how you should actually steal properly, but it's one of the most misunderstood books in entrepreneurship. Today, we're breaking down Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. I will talk about what it gets right, what I disagree with, and how you can use it and apply it to your business without destroying your positioning. So this book was written back in 2012, right? So it was a different time then. There wasn't a big wave of AI, COVID hadn't happened. It wasn't as easy to start a business, create content, and just get yourself out there. So things have changed quite a lot. Now, as you can see, it's a pretty small book, it's short, it's punchy, it's filled with things like text-like titles and images and animations. So it's a very, very, very quick read. You can read it in under an hour, which makes it really inspiring and just a quick kind of burst of inspiration when you sit down. But it's aimed at artists primarily, but it can also apply to writers and creators, because Austin's an artist and he decided that he wanted to write the book that he wished he had when he was 19 years old. And that's actually some of the advice he gives in the book, is to write the book that you wish you had read. So you got to bear in mind that this book is aimed at artists, but entrepreneurs have kind of picked it up and ran with it and essentially made it their Bible to run their business. And I think it's because of the word steal, right? Steal feels somewhat like a hack, a shortcut, and entrepreneurs somehow love their shortcuts. You know what I think about shortcuts, not a good idea. But entrepreneurs love their shortcuts. And then, as you've seen, there's been this whole steal my trend, and a lot of it stems from this book. And as I said, I don't really agree with shortcuts. You may want to check out my video about playing blitz chess for your business and you'll understand why. But let me just unpack some of the ideas that Austin Kleon had in this book and why a lot of them are really good. So I guess the main point of his entire book is that Kleon really believes that everything creative is based on something that existed before. And I totally get him there, because I do believe that everything is somehow a variation that's been done before. But what I don't like is that this is now being used as an excuse to steal other people's ideas. Now, I've had this a lot of times. I will confide in someone about an idea and they've gone and run with it themselves, and they say, well, no idea is new, so therefore what if someone else had the idea anyway and therefore I can take your idea? That logic doesn't quite work for me, but I totally get that nothing is original. Often some of the greatest inventions are based on something that was done before but failed. And art, this is why he created it, is often inspired by someone else. And even in chess, when they say there's more variations in a chessboard than there are atoms in the universe, most things have been done before, so you're not really doing anything new. You are rehashing other people's ideas and then just putting your own style on it. Now, there are plenty of examples of people in the book that he talks about that have done things like this. For example, Kobe Bryant. He talks about how Kobe was analysing all the moves of his predecessors, people he really admired, and he was just copying all of their moves. And then he realised that these moves didn't suit his body type, so he adapted them, and then he became the legend that we all knew and loved. So I want to point out a very, very key difference. See, amateurs just copy things exactly, but masters, they take things and put their own creative flair on it, and then do something different with it to make it their own. So this is the big difference between honouring versus degrading, between crediting versus plagiarising, and then transforming versus imitating. Most founders are copying like amateurs. They're copying things like post formats, offer structures, pricing models, and funnel designs without understanding any market dynamics, buyer psychology, or strategic positioning. There's nothing wrong with borrowing ideas, but if you don't understand the why behind those ideas, you don't have a strategy, you just have imitation. So the key part of the book is not that you're going to be stealing from one artist. You should be studying from many, not stealing from one. And I think this is where founders go wrong in 2026. They just binge one creator. and then they study their style, their tone, they copy their hooks, and they use the same cadence. And then AI just makes it so much worse. So now we have 10,000 people writing in the same thought leader voice. And to me, that's not stealing like an artist. That's just cloning like an amateur. So real stealing looks more like this, where you take one person's storytelling, another person's structure, you add in the clarity of a third person's, and then you mix it with your own lived experience, and then you mix them up and you synthesize. And that synthesis is what gives you the edge. So if I use chess as an example, some of my best students are studying the all-time greats, and they're taking Kasparov's aggression, they're using Carlsen's patience, and they're taking the creativity of Tao, and they're studying those and adding their own flair to it, and they're becoming really creative chess players. Because you don't become a knockoff version of one of them, you build your own style. So Kleon goes on to discuss how you should be constantly just showing up and sharing your work everywhere. At the end of the day, it comes down to the key buzzword that everyone talks about, which is consistency. But I think this word has been overused and misunderstood. And so that's why people are constantly churning out content without any strategy, completely burning out, and then they just quit too early. So what you often see is that if founders don't see their results immediately, they then pivot because they have no patience. And then they go off and they copy someone else. So they give themselves no time to develop their own style and substance. So differentiation does not come from one viral post. It comes from compounding outputs over time. Reputation is built slowly. Authority is built slowly. And trust certainly is built slowly. And this is why fast, reactive founders struggle. So the thing about this book, like I said, I absolutely love the inspiration of it. It's super quick read, it's designed really nicely, it's done by an artist. It's just that it romanticizes creativity and it really underplays the strategy element. Now I get it, right? It's still like an artist. It's aimed at artists and the art scene is very different. Now, I know a lot of artists, they embrace their creativity. If the art comes from within, it's like a calling of what they should be doing. So there's a lot less strategy per se when it comes to art, and it's more expression and feeling and bringing out their inner talent. Whereas in business, it's very different. There's a lot of planning, a lot of strategy that needs to get involved. And it's all about thinking about who your target audience is. But with art, it's usually not designed with an audience in mind. It's purely expressive, so it's a very different thing, and that's why I don't think that you can take all the ideas on this book so literally. For example, the producing constantly and sharing your process in business. This is something that has been adopted by so many creators and business owners now, the whole building in public kind of trend. So you can do that as much as you want, but if you don't know who you are, what problem you solve, and what position in the market that you hold, then you're not going to be able to see any success at all. So I think this book is great motivation and fantastic for mindsets. But unfortunately, mindsets without positioning won't build a business. So I think this book is great to read if you're currently in a place where you're paralyzed by perfection, or you're too scared to publish, or perhaps you think that originality is creating something completely from scratch. Then definitely read this book because it will give you the kickstart and the info that you really need to get started. But you should absolutely not read this book if you think it's a branding shortcut, a marketing hack, or a replacement for strategy, because it's not that. So if you want to apply the lessons from this book properly, here are 3 things that I would suggest. Number 1, list 5 people that you admire, not just in your industry, but across all the different industries. I don't want you to copy their posts, but I want you to study how they think. I want you to study how they explain things. I want you to study what they focus on. And I want you to study how they make people feel. And then I want you to build your own version. So number 2 is I want you to deconstruct before you copy. So before adopting someone else's tactic, please ask yourself these 3 questions. Why does this work? What market condition makes this effective? And does this align with my positioning? Now, if you can't answer all 3 of these questions, don't steal it. Number 3 is I want you to create a remix framework. So instead of copying individuals, I want you to define 3 things for me. Your intellectual influences, your lived experiences, and your strategic lens. So for me, that's chess, it's business diagnostics, it's market positioning, and it's no bullshit entrepreneurship. And that combination is hard to replicate, and that's where the power lies. To steal like an artist is not about copying. It's actually about synthesis. But synthesis requires thinking. And the founders keep skipping that thinking part because they want speed, they want hacks, and they want viral shortcuts. But building something distinctive takes time, takes depth, and it takes strategic clarity. So go ahead and steal. But please do understand what you're stealing, because otherwise you're not building an advantage, you're just blending in. Now, if you enjoyed this book review or any of this resonated with you today, then please do like and subscribe to my channel, because I do so many book reviews and I give you so much no bullshit advice on entrepreneurship so you don't blend in and you stand out and win more clients.